All right, well, welcome to those who are out there right now, and for those who will be joining later, we'll look forward to connecting with you then. So we're really excited tonight to be here. There's a lot of firsts in a lot of ways. I'm really excited to share what we've learned about something that has had a major impact in a lot of people's health, lives, and confident that can have a major impact in your life as well. And so, all of us want to live healthy lives. We want to, really without health, we don't really have anything, right? Health is kind of our foundation for happiness, really. And so on our session tonight, really we're going to dive into the importance of water, the importance of water plays in our lives, and the incredible role that water can play in transforming our lives into healthy and vibrant living. And I know there's a number of people tonight that are planning to come who either got a serious health issue or have a close friend or relation, someone in their family who's dealing with something, and coming, kind of looking for some answers, looking for, curious to see if high quality water through Kangen can do something for them. And so tonight we're going to get a lot of information to help you make sense of that for whatever your situation is. And I get the thrill of kind of being the interviewer, if you might say, with my good friend Jason, who I've known since high school, back in our track and field days. We recently reconnected after quite some time last summer. And that's where Jason first introduced me to Kangen water. And, after several months of kind of probing myself, really became convinced that this was something that not only did I want for myself, but something that I really felt a duty and an obligation to make others aware of, being such a gift. So we're just going to kind of dive in. It's going to be very conversational. Jason's also got some stuff he's going to walk through just to explain some of the details. Really, I'm going to just kind of let Jason speak to what he knows, which is quite a lot. And as I said, if you've got questions at any point, there is a Q&A feature in this Hangout. And you can find it, again, by clicking just above the video in the top right corner. There's like a little grid of like 9 dots or squares. If you click on that, there's a Q&A option. If you click on that Q&A option, you can type in a question, and it'll pop up on our end. And then when we've got time later for questions, we'll get through as many as we can.
Sounds good. Okay. Thanks, Jared.
All right.
I think it's, for me anyway, in my head, I think a reasonable place to start this conversation is to let people know my background here a little bit, about how this came to be for me. I used to live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was the sports medicine director for the Center for Physical Rehab. And when you work in the allied health profession, and you had a position like mine, you're exposed to an enormous amount of marketing. We were, 5 days a week, we had people in our facility marketing or promoting healthcare products of various types. And so I was used to hearing everything that was available in the healthcare field in terms of technology. So when Kangen water made its way into my life, when I started learning about this technology, I had an enormous amount of exposure to these types of things. And the claims that were being made about this water were substantial, seemingly unbelievable at the time. But I had the time on my hands because I was teaching people about a different type of medical technology, and I had 18 days available to me. And when this water or this technology made its way into my life, I had the time to learn about it. So I sat down and I learned about the technology, which is pretty straightforward. I learned about the company and found out that the company was as reputable as what it had claimed to be. From my own personal professional background, I had a really good understanding of human physiology, but specifically the human response to this technology that we're going to learn about tonight in Kangen water. And I understood it. So it was always very simple. It was just an enormous amount of information. And so it seemed like I had all the right background information to be able to help me to understand this, how wonderful this technology really is. After I learned about it, I started drinking the water myself. I started noticing some changes in my own health, and I was already an extremely healthy individual. And then I started seeing changes happening around me and the people that were drinking the water as well. So I was watching this happen firsthand. And for those who are listening and those who will eventually see this webinar, I think it's so important to say that if Gerald and I, we're both people who aren't interested in anything that we really, really don't believe in. We're not interested in anything that we really wouldn't use ourselves. We're not going to speak to a community of people that we care about something that we're not 110% convinced is as good as what we're about to tell you that it is. And so please understand, we're not here to waste our own time or to waste anybody else's time or to make any claims that simply, that we don't believe or have seen to be 100% true. So I think that's really important for people to understand. So I think that so please understand that as we talk about this, that we launch from that platform of an honesty and integrity and with a lot of background information that was fortunately for me and for everybody else that we were able to have. Now, it's also important, I'd like to say to people that if I've watched this water change so many people's lives because of my decision to purchase it one day. And like Gerald was saying, I felt like I had an obligation to communicate the knowledge that I had learned about this technology to a lot of people, because I knew a lot of healthcare providers. I knew a lot of physicians. I knew a lot of physios and chiros, massage therapists. I knew a lot of people who were in positions to be able to influence the health of their patients or the people that they advised in whatever capacity. And so I did that. I mean, I committed about a year of my life to learning about as much as I possibly could about what was going on and to share that with people. And as a result, a lot of really awesome things took place. So I think that's a good place to start for everybody out there to understand that. Yeah.
And how long ago was that when you first learned about Kangen?
Yeah, 6-7 years ago now.
Yeah. So it's this isn't new for you in any regards. I mean, unlike myself, just last summer. So you've been doing this for a while, and you've had a chance to really see the results with a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm. I have.
Well, before we get more into the Kangen, I'd like to just take a step back first, and let's just talk about water for a moment, because these days there's so many things that claim to, and many do, help people live more healthy, whether it's various supplements or diets or all kinds of things, meditation and such. You don't hear a lot of people talking about water as a way to become truly healthy. So, why should we really put a lot of focus on water? Why should we care about water? Just can you take us there for a bit, Jay?
Yeah, no, that's actually fairly recently. I heard it pretty interestingly put that 99% of what we hear out there is about the body. Well, first, the body is made up of approximately 75% water. You'll hear different numbers between 70 and 80% water. So let's say the body's made up of 75% water. Well, everything else is the 25%, but that's what everything else is focused on. All the information we hear is about the other 25%, about how we should be eating, eat organic this, eat whole foods this, paleo diets or exercise routines, and that's what the huge focus is. Ironically, 75, 80% of us is water, and it's something that we don't hear about. We hear drink water, and that's where it's left. We don't ever talk about why do we drink water. We know that, okay, drink water so that you don't become dehydrated, but we don't understand physiologically why it's important to us. We don't ever talk about the quality of the water that we're drinking. They just say drink water. And when you come to learn about water, you learn very quickly that not all water is the same. And so then it doesn't become about just drink water. It then becomes about drink certain types of water if you have it available to you. You know, you hear the terms reverse osmosis. You read on the water bottles from a spring. What's the new language that we're hearing now is drink alkaline water. And of course, what we will be talking about is drink ionized water, drink Kangen water. No, you're absolutely right that it's such an enormous part of who we are as human beings, but we hear so little about. But all of our organs and all of our cell functions require water. Without water, none of those things can take place. And so then it stands to reason that we would say, if we put in quality water, then wouldn't all of those functions and wouldn't our health as a whole improve if we're 80% water, 75% water?
Yeah, that's what really blew me away when I was reading, you know, that article in particular. I think you're getting some information from. What's the doctor's name again?
Dr. Carpenter.
Dr. Carpenter. Yeah.
Dr. David Carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the fact that our bodies are 70% water, I mean, there's nothing more foundational to health than, number one, ensuring that we have enough water. You know, as you mentioned, the majority of people don't even drink enough just to maintain where their body should be. And so then the body, being very, you know, it wants to survive. So it's very creative and will do all kinds of things to get the water that it needs when it's not being replenished. And of course, then that starts to lead to all kinds of other issues when you're not getting the water replaced.
No, absolutely correct. You know, I like Dr. Carpenter. He's a naturopath physician who's one of the advisors to the company, actually. He has this really beautiful analogy that we as human beings we're like a fish tank. You know, everybody can relate to that analogy at some point. They've had a fish in their life, you know, and if you don't change the water, if you don't take care of the fish tank, it becomes very dirty. You know, you grow algae on it, the water gets all murky. It's like a disease state. And eventually that fish dies. So if we're not putting not just water, if we're not putting really high quality water in our bodies over continuously, well, then our bodies become these fish tanks, and then they fill up with toxins, and then our organs quit functioning the way that they were meant to function, you know, in a healthy, good way. And then we start seeing the incidences of diseases that we're seeing, that in our lifetime we're seeing. Just these degenerative conditions are popping up all over the place, and the incidence of them is astronomical.
Yeah. So it all starts there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, talk a little bit about some of these places in the world,
Mm-hmm.
these natural healing places.
Yeah. So there are about a half a dozen places around the world that people will claim have magic water, you know, where people will travel from around the world, and they'll go to these places, and they'll bathe in the water, they'll consume the water, and what happens is that they get magically healed from their conditions. You know, these places in the world have been studied, and of course there are commonalities to them, and all of these places have they're a glacial source water. So the water that these people are using come from a glacier, and glacial water has the three components that we'll be talking about tonight, that being an antioxidant, heavy antioxidant. The second is that the structure of the water is different. It's hexagonally structured, so it's called microclustering. And the third is that it's heavy alkaline. It's a very, very alkaline water because of the way glaciers move when they're moving forward and receding. They grind up the minerals in the rocks. And those alkaline minerals that they're grinding up, when the glacier melts, goes into solution, goes into the water. And so when they're consuming this water, scientists have identified that those three components of that source water is different than any other source water around the world. There are studies. One of the Lourdes, France is one of these places that's most popular. But in the Himalayan mountains, the Hunza people have had a lot of research done on them. And these people, aside from their water source, of course, their diets were different, their lifestyles were different, but their water source was glacial fed. And these people lived to be 120, 140 years old, disease-free. But they were drinking the type of water that we're going to be talking about for their whole lives.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and the water that we're going to explore more closely, the Kangen water, it's essentially very, very similar to glacial water. Isn't that right?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's as good as it gets. That's the way water was meant to be before it became so commercialized and polluted through our municipal water systems and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. The word Kangen, which by the way is a trademark term, there's no other company in the world that's allowed to use the term Kangen because it's a trademark. It's a trademark in Japan. I believe it's a trademark in the United States as well. And the word Kangen in Japanese means back to origin, and it's a bit of a play on words. It's to take our bodies back to its original state, the way they're supposed to be functioning, and that is well, for us to be well. And it's also a play on the water, to be drinking back to origin, back to the way water was meant to be, healthy and pure, and not necessarily toxic the way it's become, unfortunately.
Yeah, so let's shift into those gears then. So let's talk a little bit about the company Enagic. So it's not exactly a household term here in North America. You don't hear people, you don't see it spread all over the place. There's not ads and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about this company Enagic.
Yeah, and I can tell you some about it. There's a lot of really, really specific information on the website that I just checked out in the last short while here, because the company is amazing. And there was a time, a few years ago when I was really sharp on my knowledge about the company in terms of the exact awards that it's won, the type of medical communities that support it. But what I can tell you for sure is that Enagic is a medical manufacturing company. It's a medical device. It's not something that you will ever find on the shelves of Costco or Walmart. You will never, ever, ever see it there. The only way to ever access this medical device is through a distributor for the company. There's no other way to do it. It's a 40-year-old company, so it's been around for a very, very long time, and it's used in hospitals and clinics historically to be able to treat a huge array of conditions in their countries. In their countries, the physicians, the medical community uses ionized water to take care of a whole huge list of conditions like cancer and diabetes and all sorts of degenerative conditions. Now, we can't make those claims over here. We're not allowed to. We wouldn't dare do it, because then we can run into some problems with the FDA or the governing bodies that be. So we would never make those claims, but we can absolutely tell you that the Japanese community does use this to very, very successfully treat all of those degenerative conditions. Now, and that's important. It's very, very important to know. Just because our medical model is different than their medical model in Japan. The single healthiest country in the world is Japan. I think the United States ranks somewhere in the 38th place or something like that for being the healthiest, or the 38th healthiest country in the world. Clearly, if I'm going to be following a model for health, it's not going to be the 38th place. It's going to be the first place country, right? That makes all the sense in the world.
Sure. Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, just going to say. So Enagic is kind of really new to North America, but when it comes to say Japan, for example, I believe it's like 1 in 10 households have one of these machines in their home.
Well, I know 6 years ago it was 1 in 6. It was 1 in 6 at that time, yeah. And so I don't
it's almost as common as having a fridge and a stove almost.
Yeah, Kangen. The word Kangen is a very, very it's a common term, Kangen, in Japan. And somebody said to me fairly recently, how come we've never heard about that over here in North America? I'm like, well, there are probably 1,000 companies in Japan that we don't know about because they're Japanese companies, in the same way that we have all these companies over here in Canada, these different health companies over here that they don't know about. But in recent years, it has made its way to North America for different reasons. In Canada, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's only been here for 5 or 6 years, 6 years maybe. I think it came to Canada the year that I had learned about it, or maybe just the year prior. But it has been in the United States for only 3 years longer than that. But it is growing very, very rapidly.
Yes, exactly. Well, great, Jay. Let's get into more with the water, the Kangen water itself, and I'm sure everyone really wants to know a little bit more about what makes it so unique and so powerful.
Okay.
So, can you go through really, the 3 main properties of the water?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So let's get down to it. Now, the ionizer. So what's happening is that water here. Actually, let me give you a quick little. I'll move my display board here to show you the actual machine. Now, the machine I'm showing you is called the SD501, and this is like the flagship model, the older flagship model of the company. And it's a pretty simple process. Okay, so the water comes in through the tap. It goes around the back of the machine. It goes through a hospital-grade filter that's hidden behind here. And after that, it goes through, the water gets run over titanium platinum plates with a heavy, heavy charge of electricity. It goes through the electrolysis process or the ionization process. The water splits. And what happens is the ionized water comes out this part, which you consume, and then the acidic water comes out this tube. And so that's what happens. And I'll get into more detail about what it is that's going on, but people always ask, what does it look like? How does it work? So this is the machine, and that's how it works in short. And it produces approximately 1 gallon per minute. A little bit faster than that, but that's approximate. So for me to fill up a gallon jug takes me probably about 40 seconds or 50 seconds or something like that. But so what happens when water goes through the ionization process or the electrolysis process is it changes the water, and it changes it in 3 different ways. And the first is that it becomes a very heavy antioxidant, which I'll explain here in a moment. The second is that it makes it heavily alkaline, which I will explain later. And the third is that there's a microclustering property or component to what it is that happens during ionization. Now, antioxidants, the term, the word, has been a buzz term in North America for probably the last 10 or so years. In fact, I heard a statistic fairly recently that antioxidants, the word antioxidant, and anything that has to do with the world of antioxidants, sells more or generates more revenue than any other word or term in the healthcare industry. And so people, everybody knows that it's good for you, but very few people actually know what it is. So to understand antioxidants, I think we first have to understand what a free radical is. Now, a free radical is a molecule that makes its way into the body that is unstable. It's positively charged. Now, that could be from the toxins in the air, it can be from the chemicals in our water, it can be from any of the toxins that we expose ourselves to that are ubiquitous, or even our own stress, physical stress, mental stress, that we can have these free radicals make their way into our body in those ways as well. Now, so if we have, just for the sake of our demonstration here, I'm using an oxygen molecule. If we have an oxygen molecule that is positively charged, that is a free radical. It is an unstable molecule. We all remember from grade 9 science that any molecule has to have a positive charge and a negative charge in order for it to be balanced. And if it's not balanced in this way, it is a free radical. Now, the damage that takes place there is that with this unstable molecule in the body, it needs an electron. So it's going to go searching for electrons all through the body, and it's going to steal electrons from the other cells. But when it does that, so it steals an electron from another cell, well, now that cell doesn't have an electron. So it goes looking for electrons. And this domino effect that happens in the body is what causes oxidation to take place. And the two really quick visual examples of oxidation are, if we take an apple and we cut the apple and we leave it sit on the counter, that apple turns brown very quickly. Well, what's happening is it's becoming oxidized. It's oxidizing. Another example would be if we have a nail that sits in water. Well, that nail rusts very quickly. Well, that's oxidation that takes place. So free radical damage is what causes those things to take place. Well, that's what happens into our bodies when we have toxins and stress. Now, if we can create something, or if we can expose our bodies to an antioxidant, an anti-oxidative thing, then that's what we want to do. Because what that does is an antioxidant donates that electron to the unstable molecule, and it renders that molecule unharmful. It's not harmful anymore, it's stable. And so what the water does when it goes through the electrolysis process, it takes a regular H2O water molecule that looks generally like this. When it breaks it down into a hydroxyl ion and a hydrogen ion. Now the hydroxyl ion is negatively charged, and so the more hydroxyl ions that we can pump into our body with that negative charge, the more electron, or rather, the more free radical scavengers that we have. So the more hydroxyl ions, the more free radicals that can be killed and take place. I don't see you, Jer, anymore. Are you still there? Well, I don't see Jerry anymore. Maybe he's gone, and I don't see anybody else. But I know this is recording, so I can finish the video anyway. And I don't know if you guys are there, but I'll just keep going because I know it's recording. So what I know is that the antioxidants that are pumped out of this machine, and I've heard it consistently from many places, it's the strongest antioxidant that is available to us anywhere. We know that things like certain fruits, and we know that green tea actually is a really good example. Green tea is a very good antioxidant. Now there's a device that can measure something called an ORP, or the oxidation reduction potential, and that is the ability of something to be able to reduce or to stabilize free radicals. Now there's a device that has a probe in it, and you can stick it into things, and it'll tell you how oxidative or how antioxidative something is. Now, if you take this ORP meter, and if you put it in things like regular tap water or Kangen, or it's not Kangen water, like bottled water, for example, it'll read a positive number, and that means that it's oxidative. It means it causes oxidation to take place. Now, if there's a negative measure on that ORP meter, then what it is it has a higher ability to reduce the potential of oxidation. Now, green tea, if you take this device and you put the probe in green tea, it'll show up approximately negative 70 millivolts. And that shows, because it's a negative number, it shows that it is a very good antioxidant. Now, depending on the source water, for Kangen water, I have heard the number between negative 500 millivolts and up to negative 1,000 millivolts. Now, I have seen it myself register somewhere between 600 and 800 and negative 600, 800 millivolts, which suggests that the Kangen water is up to about 10 times more powerful as an antioxidant than green tea. And green tea is a gold standard for antioxidants, a very strong antioxidant. But this is approximately 10 times stronger. Now, or it can be about 10 times stronger depending on the source water. Now, the difference also too in volume is if we drink 1 cup of green tea, well, we're exposing our bodies to a little bit of antioxidants. If we amplify it and are delivered much more efficiently to my cells than what would be happening with just regular tap water. And I have several examples or several stories, some of them actually quite entertaining, about people experiencing these things happening. One of them is that when you're taking your vitamins and you're drinking with Kangen water, people notice that their urine isn't quite so fluorescent as what it normally is, because so much more of it is being absorbed as opposed to, hitting the cell wall and not being absorbed and then just passing it through your urine. But like I said, I have some entertaining I have some entertaining stories. One involving Viagra that a guy was telling me about in Ottawa one day. But he said, "Yep, absolutely. The water does magnify the effects, and it speeds up the effects very, very quickly." Oh, I have somebody knocking on my door. Isn't that horribly unfortunate? Excuse me for 1 minute.
All right. Well, I'll move into the next part, Jason. So really, at this point now, you've kind of heard, what's unique about Kangen water. Show you in a minute how the machine works, and really at this point, now we just want to kind of show you specifically about the machine and give you the final bits of information so you can make an informed choice around what you want to do. Jason, have you had a chance to demonstrate the machine yet?
No, I haven't. I briefly just showed it. Let me remove my giant board here. So they can take a peek at my kitchen and my Kangen water machine. Okay, now the machine does so many more things than what we've already explained. I mean, it makes all different types of water, high 11.5 water and low 2.5 water that have different types of indications. But up in this blue area, there are different levels of pH. And all these buttons, all the buttons do is it adjusts the level of the pH of the water. Now down here we have strong acidic water where we can make water that has a pH as low as 2.5 that we don't consume, but we can use as a cleaning product in our house, because water that has a pH of 2.5 is actually antimicrobial. So you could replace the chemicals in your house like Javex and Clorox and whatever you use to clean your house with, and you can just use 2.5 water to clean things off, and it's more effective as an antimicrobial than what those products are. As we go up, this 6.0, this beauty water, that we know that, again, slightly acidic water has indications outside the body, not necessarily inside the body, and one of them is it acts as an astringent to the body. So people will use this beauty water topically, and it tightens your skin, and it also works on killing off anything that's on the surface of your skin. So people will use it for like acne or just to keep their skin surfaces clean. And that's that setting. Here, this is the clean water setting, and this is just filtered water and not ionized water. And this is what people could use for their pharmaceutical medication, for example. And then we get higher up the pH scale, and now we're at 8.5, 9, and 9.5 pH water, and that's what we want to consume. There is one more water that it makes the same as 2.5 water, and that's 11.5 water. And water that has a pH of 11.5 actually will emulsify or break down oil. So there are indications for the 11.5 water also for cleaning your house or anywhere where you need to break down oil. And if you can see examples of that like being
pesticides.
used, yeah, like pesticides, and you can see from the demos that are online that we can direct you to, pesticides on fruits and vegetables that are used on fruits and vegetables are all oil-based. They're not water-based, because if they were water-based, the rain would wash them off, and so they have to be oil-based so the water can't get them off. Well, if the water can't get them off, well, neither can the water in your tap. So when you get home and you're washing your fruits and vegetables under tap water, well, it's really not doing anything because it's an oil-based pesticide. But the 11.5 water will emulsify the oil. It breaks down the oil. It actually removes most of the pesticide externally from the fruit or vegetable, and it changes the flavor like you can't believe. And I know that sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but it's substantial. It's shocking to me even.
My kids love washing the vegetables with the Kangen water, because you put it in there and literally within a few minutes, the waters turn like this yellow, and just like the oil are just basically melting off off the vegetables. And they we had like the little cherry tomatoes and sort of the regular water and the Kangen water, and one's sort of like a little bit of an acid type taste, and the other one is just like, wow.
Precisely.
Came like almost out of my garden.
Yeah, it's true. And it's true. And it's shocking. Like, I mean, I have a story fairly recently. 2 summers ago, I was in Mont-Tremblant, and I was visiting my friend Elvis. He was racing there. And Alan had washed some fruit that he had picked up from the grocery store to give some people with the Kangen water, and I had some, and I couldn't believe how good it was. And I had known about the water for years already, and it was still shocking to me how the difference. It's pretty substantial. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's as simple as okay. So we have the setting here is set to ionizing, and so it comes out the ionizer, and you can see that it's coming out. So the alkaline water is coming out the hose. Simply just fill up your glass. And when we give water out to people to try, the alkalinity stays in the bottles, the microclustering stays in the bottles, but I don't know if you can see on screen there. See all the bubbles in there, all the active hydrogen and oxygen that's in there. That's something that does leave, because as soon as air hits the water, it begins to oxidize. So at the moment, this glass of water is a heavy, heavy antioxidant, but if I leave this glass just sitting on the counter, in a couple of hours, it will become oxidated. And so it won't be an antioxidant anymore. And so that's the one property you lose when you're giving to other people. And I have heard so many times when people say, when I'm drinking the water from the actual machine, it makes a difference in how I feel. And the two symptoms changes, or not symptoms, but byproducts of that I hear from people is that my energy level goes up and I sleep a lot better. And you just hear it consistently from people. But
and one big bowel movement.
Oh yeah, yeah, and so that's something to know, that when you're drinking the water, the analogy that my friend Elvis uses is that it's like you're cleaning out a great big clogged up filter. And we know that we rid our body of toxins in different ways, and that we go through different detox symptoms, and we know that our gastrointestinal system rids things the way it does. And one of the things that happens pretty consistently with people is they have an enormous cleansing bowel movement from this, just from things that are being caught up in your body for years. And I heard there's a traditional Chinese doctor in Hamilton. Is that what she is? She said she referred to it with her clients. She actually has her own Kangen water store in Hamilton, and she said, have your patients or have your customers experience the broomstick, I think she called it. And I think you understand my reference when I call it the broomstick, because after she said it, I'm like, yeah, we hear about the broomstick. I wouldn't call it the broomstick, but yes, they have these excessive bowel movements in the beginning. It's just simply cleansing. Yeah, but that's one of the first things. Like for me, even in my really healthy state, the three things I noticed in the first 48 hours from drinking the water was I had the broomstick bowel movement. I suddenly started to sleep really well, and that lull that I was getting in the middle of the afternoon of getting tired, it just went away. I just wasn't getting it anymore, and so my energy level stayed high throughout. And those were three subtle changes in my body that took place over the first couple of days. I mean, there were many things that happened since, and the stories I've heard from people are extremely life-changing. Not always. Some people just notice subtle differences, right? But I think in part it has to do with how ill you are when you come in, how clean you're eating when you come in, how clean a lifestyle you're living when you come in, what kind of ailments you have coming in. Because if there's the less that is wrong, the less has to be fixed. But oftentimes people. Sorry, go ahead.
Everything from migraines going away to back pain or knee pain or stomach ailments, all the itis diseases, right?
Yeah, all the inflammatory diseases, exactly. Yeah, the list of things that I've seen happen to people. I think that people would have a hard time believing me if I told them the list of things but I've watched it. I've watched it with my own eyes. I've seen it, and like I said, I'm not here to mislead anybody about anything. I'm here to share this knowledge with people, partly out of obligation, maybe because I know that I've seen it help so many people in such significant ways. That why don't you want everybody to know about this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, great. Well, I'm just going to take a few minutes then to show people kind of the options for machines.
Great.
I'm gonna switch to slides here. Okay. All right, so now let's look at the cut. Enagic has a number of different machines, but really there's, as Jason mentioned earlier, the one he has is kind of the flagship version, and that's the one that we really recommend. And there's another similar model, which is like a stainless steel model, which I'll show as well. But really, this is the ideal model because it can produce all 5 types of the water, the Kangen drinking water, the just sort of the regular water, which hasn't been changed in any way, which you would use, say you were creating, a baby formula for drinking. You've got your beauty water, your Kangen water, your strong Kangen water, your strong acidic water. And when you purchase a model, it comes with everything that you need to get started, right? It's got a high-grade filter in it, and it's got the cartridge and electrolysis enhancer, 2 things that you'll need to replenish over time, not super often, but basically you've got everything you need to get going. And that's really the model we recommend, unless you're 1 or 2 people, then you may want to consider a model that doesn't produce as much water. But for anyone who's got like a family or a group of people that's 3 or 4 or 5, literally this is the model you want, or this one if if you want something that looks a little prettier, a little nicer. Maybe you've got a lot of stainless in your kitchen, and then this is the model you want to go with. This is essentially the same. It's a little fancier, a little updated, but really it's the same functions as the other one. Now, in terms of the investment for each of these, I mean, you're looking at no small amount of money. It's definitely an investment, and one that you're going to be able to recoup from for a lifetime. For the white model in Canada, it's $4,000. The stainless one is slightly more. One of the things I'd like to point out is that for Canadians, there's really a huge savings on the exchange rate right now. I don't know why Enagic hasn't adjusted their prices to the exchange rate, but right now it's almost the exact same as the US. So you can literally save over $1,000 right now before they decide to, adjust based on exchange rate, just by getting a machine now, which I jumped on myself when I saw that. Now, it does come with a pretty solid guarantee, right? I mean, if there's any problems of any kind whatsoever, it's covered for the first 5 years. And, these machines will run for 10, 15, 20 years. They're very solid. And they do come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, within 30 days, you should start seeing some significant improvements. If you're drinking the required amount of water each day, you will definitely notice improvements. And within that 30 days, you know for sure that this is worth keeping for you. Now, because Jason and I believe in this so much, and we want to remove any possible hesitation in giving this a try, we'll even pay your restocking fee if, in the remote chance, you decide to return the machine. Jason sold dozens of these machines, and he's had friends like Elvis who sold dozens of these machines, and no one has ever returned one. So we're pretty confident once you've tried this, you won't want to return it either, just because of what it does. But that said, if you're ready to go, if you're ready to give this a try, and you want to order within the next 7 days, we'll offer this to you just as an additional support to move forward, so that you don't have to worry about the financial side. You can try this risk-free for 30 days and start reaping the health benefits. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you can pay for this. there's a way that you can afford this. If this is something you really want to do, and ultimately that's your call. We're not here to pressure you or anything. Really just here to encourage you to make the choice that's right for you. You can pay up front. You can also pay in monthly installments, and we do have some friends who are doing that, whether it's 3, 6, 10, or 16 months. And the cool thing is actually there's no interest on those payments. So there is a small administrative fee depending on how many months that you're looking to pay it across. But really, what I really love about this company is they tried to minimize the barriers to spreading this amazing technology to people. They don't want the financial side to be a barrier. I mean, places like the Philippines, it's crazy how many people are buying these machines, and that's not a well-to-do country. But people are seeing the health benefits of that, and they're finding ways to invest in it. Now, was one other thing we haven't talked about, and we won't really talk about it too much tonight, but Jason and I are both distributors of this machine. So we bought a machine, and at the time of buying, you can decide whether or not you want to become a distributor. So, essentially, if you really believe in this product, and you're going to be telling your friends and people about it anyway, this is a way to also benefit financially, which it really just creates a win-win, right? So after selling, I think it's about 8 machines, you essentially pay back your machine. So, and it can go way beyond that too, of course. So if you're at all interested in becoming a distributor, we'll follow up with you after the call tonight, and we can talk a lot more about that. Of course, you don't have to become a distributor to buy a machine, but it's certainly an option.
And let me add, if I can add just briefly, Gerald, to that, that's a daunting idea to people. Well, I don't know how to sell anything. I don't know, and you don't have to. That's what we are for. That's what Gerald and I are for. You can, if you're interested in introducing other people to this technology, then you hook them up to our webinars, or you put them in contact with us, and we've done all the homework. We've done all the homework. And we can take it from there for you. And so really your work is done for you by somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. The majority of, it's really just a matter of telling your story about the machine and giving people a chance to try the water. It's really that simple. The machine really, your story and the machine trying the water itself, those two things really is all it takes for people to make a decision. So just again, in summary, at the very beginning, we talked about how water is the foundation of life, and that improved health really begins by changing the water you drink. Our bodies are primarily water. If we're going to make a change, changing our water will have the biggest impact. Kangen means back to origin, and is the only machine that turns ordinary tap water into life-giving water the way nature intended, the way water is sourced from glaciers, the way it used to be. Thirdly, the Canadian pricing that's there now, it's not going to last. I don't know when they're going to change the exchange rates, but I mean, it's been that way for a long time. So I encourage you to take advantage of that now if you're at all thinking about getting a machine. And just a reminder that, there is a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, and we'll pay your restocking fee if for some remote reason you decide it's just not going to work for you. That's cool. We'll take that restocking fee cost, which I believe is like 15% of the machine, so it's not insignificant. And then lastly, if you're at all interested in becoming a distributor, the Kangen or the Enagic company really provides a great model to combine both physical and financial health in a really fast-growing, emerging, untapped market.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really covers it.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. No, in terms of business opportunity, Enagic is not it's not well known in Canada yet, and in 15, 20, 25 years it will be. So in terms of financial opportunity or from a business standpoint, you always want to come in when it's low, right? As it's going up, and right now it's only been in the country for a few years, so it's opportunities there.
All right. So again, thanks again for those who have bared with us all the way through this call. We've had our share of technical glitches, but I trust that the information itself was worth the hurdles. We will have this put up online. I'll do some edits just to clean it up a little bit. So I invite you to share with friends, and of course we're going to do this again next week on Wednesday. I am planning to change the tools that we're going to use to do that webinar based on tonight's experience. So I'll have more information about that later. And again, follow up with those of you that were on the call tonight, and just answer any more of your questions and help you move forward. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for sharing so much of your passion and your knowledge around this. And thanks again for introducing me to this Kangen machine, and to all of our friends. So.
Yeah, and let me finish just by saying too, like if I didn't step forward and make that $4,000 investment 6 or 7 years ago, I don't recall, literally hundreds of people's lives would not have been changed in significant ways. I have so many stories that I could tell about so many different types of ailments that have just gotten better, And the only thing that those people changed about their lives were the water. And in most instances, those changes took place very quickly. They took place in the first 30 days, or they took place in the first 90 days, but they were substantial. And if I hadn't made that investment to move forward, those things would not have happened for those people. And so I feel really good about that. So I mean, that's a little light there for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's an exciting thing, not just for everyone around you. Yeah. So I encourage people to think about that too. It's a gift that keeps giving, literally. Great. Okay. Well, thanks, Jay.
Okay. Thanks, Jer. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, you too.